Hello everybody in this new tutorial of Unity. Today I'll show you how to make enemy movement. So let's navigate to the asset store and download the zombie package. Let's search zombie. Here we have a very nice package for free. It contains 3D object and all what you need about animation, falling back, walking, attacking. So let's import it to the project and let's move it to import folder. So here in the scene we need to drag and drop the prefab of a zombie. So let's move the package to package folder, and in the zombie folder we can see the prefab, the three different prefab. Let's pick one here. So drag and drop in the scene, and let's change the scale to 80, I think. Yeah, that's great. Change the orientation here in order to see. Yeah, I think that's good. And let's change more a little bit the rotation and the x-axis. Yeah, great. So let's select the map object, and in the navigation window here we can make the bake. That will take a few minutes. Here we go fast in the tutorial. So here we can calculate the terrain in which the agent NavMesh will use it in order to manage movement. So let's select the zombie and add new script, enemy movement. Let's open it and let's try to add some property here. So the first one is a float, type of float property, which called speed, the speed of enemy. And let's add a health property, type of float. And let's duplicate it to change the type to int, and let's call it attack damage. And the last one, I think, yeah, attacking distance. So all these parameters we can change it or manage it in the upgrade performance of player. We see it in next tutorial. So the last property here is attacking player boolean type. In the start method, let's initialize the attacking player to false. And here we need to add a private property, type of transform, and let's call it to target. The target eventually is the player object, and here let's initialize this target to get component, get object dot find game object with tag. The tag is player, and get component type of transform. And I think find game object. Yeah, not objects. It's object. We search only one object. Yeah, that's great. So here we have our target, and now let's add which called a NavMesh agent, and let's add the necessary using its Unity Engine.ai. we need to set up the speed of agent and the acceleration equal to 150. Yeah. So here in the update method, we need to define some logic of movement. So if the health is greater than 0, which means the zombie is alive, and let's check the distance between the player and the zombie using vector3.distance method greater than attacking distance. So here, which means that the enemy is walking to find the player. So let's say the agent dot set destination to the target dot position. So we say to the enemy, look for the player. And the attacking player is false. Else, which mean the zombie reach the player. So attacking player is true. So let's now navigate to the Unity editor and add NavMesh component. And let's set the speed to 15 and acceleration to 115. 50. So let's initialize the speed. That's great. And in the enemy movement, let's initialize the property. 50 to the speed, 150 to the health, 100 to the health, and 10 and 70 for the attacking distance. Let's run and see. Yeah, here we have our player. Our enemy is moving. So let's define the zombie animator controller in order to manage the state of the different animation: walking, idle, attacking, falling back. So it's very simple. Let's add an empty state. We change the name to idle. So by default, the enemy is an idle state, and after that we need to define attacking state and walking state. Let's make a transition between idle and walking. By default, when instantiate, the enemy is an idle, and by default we pass to walking state. We don't need a transition here. So finally we have the last state is falling back, and here let's go to make the transition between the different states here. So in the idle state we can pass to walking, falling back, and attacking. And from walking we can go to the attacking state. And from all other state we can go to the falling back. So in the parameters here, let's add 3 parameters. The first one is walking, it's Boolean. The second one is attacking, and the last one is falling back. And let's go to every transition, and let's say we navigate to the walking state when walking is true, to the attacking state where the property is attacking to true, and falling back state if the falling back is true. In the same way, we can do all other transition between the states. It's falling back. It's falling back to true. That's great. And here is falling back to true. Nice. So let's drag and drop it, the controller, to the animator. And here let's add a private property type of animator called animator, and let's initialize it in the start method. So animator, it's equal to get component type of animator, which means we search the animator attached to the current object is the enemy prefab. Let's initialize the transition to is walking to true. So if the health is greater than 0, we are in the walking state. So we forgot to update the motion in different states. Here we have all the animation of the zombie. We can see all this motion. So let's drag and drop it to, let's choose walk to the walk state motion, and let's select the attacking and drag and drop attack motion, and the last one is falling back. Let's drag and drop the falling back motion. That's great. Let's run the game. And here we have our enemy is moving. So let's accelerate the walking state. Let's select the walking and change the speed of animation to 2. And here we can see, here we can see the enemy is walking. Very nice. So let's define the is attacking property. So here, if the distance between the player is greater than the attacking distance, which means the enemy is far from the player, so the attacking state is false. Else, which means the distance is equal to the distance attack, so the enemy reach the player, and here we have the attacking state is activated. We can see it here. We need to have some changes in the animator. We forgot to make the reverse transition, which is attacking to false. So we have to navigate to the walking state. Great. Let's run and see. And here we have the enemy is attacking the player, and now the distance is greater than the attacking distance. We can see the transition navigation. Great. Let's navigate to enemy movement and add else block. So if the health is less than or equal to 0, which means the enemy has dead. So let's define the agent speed to 0, the acceleration to 0, and the angular speed to 0, which means we don't need this object to move. And finally, we make the animation dot set bool method, and is falling back property to true, which means the enemy is down. Yeah, true. And the attacking player is equal to false. and we destroy the object after 10 minutes. And here we have to add some logic of attacking the enemy rate attacking. So let's add attacking countdown property. Less than or equal 0. So what we can make here is update the player health every time the enemy attack the player. We update the player health, and we update also the attacking countdown. It's equal to 1 divided by we need to define another property which called attacking rate, and in order to make the lever more difficult, so we need to increase the frequency of enemy attacking. So we need to decrease the attacking rate. And finally, the countdown, attacking countdown minus equal to time dot delta time. Great, let's see. Here we have our enemy is attacking the player. So let's add a new method which called take damage, and we have one parameter here, type of float called range, and the health minus equal to this range. So this method, the object of this method to update the health of enemy every time the user or the player hit the enemy. So we need to update the health range. And let's destroy the transform.get component capsule collider in order to avoid the player hit a died enemy. So let's check if the health is less than 0. We need to destroy the capsule collider so we can see only the object without collider, and after that we destroy completely the enemy object. And let's say I think yeah, what we need to do in the next tutorial is to add money to the player. So here let's add a new tag called enemy, and we change the zombie tag to enemy, and here we need to add a new component, capsule collider. So the capsule collider will use it in order to manage the player hit, which means if the capsule hit the collider of enemy, so we update the enemy health. And let's make it more a little bit. Yeah, I think that's great. Let's select the capsule prefab, and in the capsule movement script we'll use the on collision enter method, And here we search if the collision is between the capsule and the target object type of enemy. So here we make the take damage, we call the take damage method. So we need to check if the collision.transform.tag is equal to the enemy. So let's get this enemy instance and update its health. So enemy, let's make a new object type of enemy movement equal to collision dot get object dot get component type of enemy movement. So this is the target instance of enemy, and let's make enemy dot take damage by 5. That's all what you need, and eventually let's destroy the capsule object. Change the duck to enemy, and let's add a rigid body to the capsule, and let's disable the use gravity. That's great. And I think we have a spelling mistake here, is falling back. Yeah, and finally we need to set the destination to the enemy position. We don't need it to move after dying. So here, let's run the game and see. Let's try to hit it. Yeah, it's done. So that's all for today. Thank you very much. Don't forget to subscribe.